10 years is a long time to be doing anything.
For you.
Can it, Freeran? You're not even in this video. Good thing, too, because while I stole this joke from a comment on my best of all time list, if I put her on this one, someone might legitimately kill me. I've watched a lot of great anime over the last decade, but I've definitely seen even more terrible ones. So today, in our second round of celebrations for Mother's Basement's 10th channelversary, we're gonna be ranking the absolute worst of them. A task I take, I won't say no joy in, but certainly less joy than talking about anime I love, which I'd very much like to see more of than I've seen bad ones. And that's why my best buds, Tristan, Miles, and I have started a new podcast, The Quest for the Best, to give ourselves an excuse to watch more great anime more often and a place to talk about them on our way to compiling a top 100 list of the greatest anime ever made. To get the ball rolling, we started with 3 of our personal all-time favorites, Frieren, Patlabor 2 the movie, and Baccano. And coming up next, we got Project A-ko, one of the most important, not to mention fun and gorgeous anime movies ever made. That episode drops this Monday, and we'll have a new one for you every Monday after that. You can follow our epic quest by subscribing to the channel linked up there or down in the doobly-doo, or if you'd prefer, you can use all the other links down there to find us at all the usual podcasting places. It's a great podcast, and I honestly think you guys are gonna love it. Plus, I would love to see all of you join us in our journey. But right now, I've got to let the hate flow through me. And make no mistake, this list is about hate. You're not about to see something like King's Game or Garzy's Wing on here, because watching those things doesn't make me hate myself. When a show is truly so bad it's good, I believe that does actually make it good in some way, or at least less bad than things that just straight up suck. In the right context, the thrill of discovering some new, previously unimaginable way that an anime or film's creators f***ed up beyond all comprehension can completely replace or even surpass any conventional entertainment value that thing loses from being objectively terrible. Number 10, Rent-a-Girlfriend is the polar opposite of that. An anime so good, it sucks. The animation and art direction, acting, and music are legitimately quite impressive, but all I can think as I drink in those luscious production values, or the manga's fantastic art for that matter, is what a colossal goddamn waste of human potential this whole cash grab harem treadmill is. Just imagine if all of this acting talent and moe craftsmanship had been poured into waifus with even a hint of likable personality. Besides, Mami Nanami, of course, who is entirely valid for hating everyone else in the show, especially Kazuya, the walking twitlonger with zero redeeming qualities and even less sex appeal, whose very existence condemns everyone around him to an eternity of nothing ever happening. And because of that problem, the parts of Rent-a-Girlfriend that are unironically kinda good, like episode 1 or most of season 3, somehow end up feeling even worse, because those are the bait that pulls you into the trap and keeps you from escaping it until it's far too late. Here you are thinking, yes, it's finally paying off. Chizuru's really digging into her hopes and dreams, showing us what makes her tick. Kazuya's proven his value as a man and romantic partner. There's finally like a story with goals for the characters to work toward instead of shit just kind of happening because they needed 20 minutes of waifu for you to stare at. It took a while, but this anime is going somewhere, man. And then that somewhere is this. Now, I can't, in good conscience, rank Rent-a-Girlfriend lower than 10th place because, objectively speaking, it is a competently made anime that mostly just sucks on a spiritual level. But let me put it this way. If you put a gun to my head and said, watch SAO now or die, I'd full dive into that shit with zero hesitation. It's not great, but it's dumb fun. If you did the same thing with Rent-a-Girlfriend, though, I'd probably still watch it. I do have a lot of loved ones who I'd like to see again more than I don't want to see Kazuya. Yeah, more. Yeah. I did really have to think about it, though. I'd also really have to think about 9th place, and I like to think that when I do make my final decision, Yazzie will understand. Or she would in a hypothetical universe where a second season of The Promised Neverland got made that completely ruined everything and butchered the entire back half of the manga. She might even take the bullet with me. I mean, season 1, the only season, was the anime that finally convinced her yaoi and mecha-loving ass to give literally any Shonen Jump series besides Haikyuu a shot. And in that hypothetical universe, she would have developed Shonen Jump-related trust issues so severe that it would have taken her years to finally give Jujutsu Kaisen, her favorite anime and manga ever, a real shot. Luckily, we don't live in that universe. But that does mean that I do have an inexplicable blank space in 9th place on this list, which I'm now gonna have to fill by hyping you up about the worst anime I haven't finished watching yet. From the statistically worst anime director to ever do it, Yoshiteru Sato. A director who isn't a director at all, in fact, but rather the vice president of a video game company called Idea Factory, who stood up in a board meeting one day back in 1999 and said, "Hey, why do we need to hire an anime director to adapt our games? I like anime. How hard can it be?"
Let's finish this freak off! Come on! Die, you demon scumbag! Scorn, burn, fire, fly! Whoa, cool.
The Idea Factory collection ranges from terabad short film recaps of already not very good strategy RPGs, like that clip you just saw, to literally just all of the cutscenes from an awful visual novel crammed onto a DVD for no apparent reason. None of them are good. Some barely qualify as anime to begin with, and Sato made a shocking amount of them for a man with literally no talent or prior experience. Which is why I still have a lot of work to do on that particular roast and like half an entire TV show to watch, and it's gonna be a minute before that finally comes out because all of those things are a real slog. But I do hope that you'll look forward to it when it's done, in the same way that you are looking forward to a season of The Promised Neverland, season 2. That's gonna happen eventually, right? Because it hasn't happened yet, but it could happen eventually. And, you know, hopefully when it does come out, it's gonna make up for this spot on the list being inexplicably blank. I don't know how that happened. I'm sorry. Speaking of things I wish I could take back, though, 6 years and 9 months ago, I declared that the Master of Ragnarok and Blesser of Einherjar was the worst isekai. And I was objectively correct, but only for like 2 months. For little did I realize that the shambling husk of Studio Gonzo was about to release one of its final corpse farts in the form of a zero-effort tie-in anime for a low-effort remake of Conception. The mediocre PSP Persona knockoff in which you knocked up your social links, including your own cousin, then used your own children in battle as Pokemon. As child abuse simulators go, the game itself is fine. I can't really think of literally any reason for a person to play it, even back in 2012 when Persona 3 Portable had already existed for an entire year. But like, there is something refreshing about an isekai that just cuts out the middleman and makes its protag save the world by fucking a bunch of random waifus. Or, you know, do a magic get pregnant ritual off screen with a bunch of waifus, because the dictates of console gaming basically force this to be a pseudo-ecchi for cultureless cowards. At least those waifus are cute, though. In the game, I mean, where they were drawn by the ReZero artist, not after what Gonzo did to them. This isn't quite the studio's ugliest anime, at least not on the outside. Tri-Nights is a thing, after all. Oh, sweet Jesus, Kun, it moves! But on the inside, I mean, take all the problems inherent to adapting just the bare-bones dating sim bits of a story designed to be carried by an entire supplementary dungeon crawler, add an excruciatingly awkward lack of chemistry with waifus who are only PG-13 boning protag-kun because it's their destiny or whatever, multiply that by the death throes of a company 3 years out from hawking NFTs just to keep the lights on, and divide it all by the number of jokes which are actually funny, and oh no, it was zero. Zero of the jokes in this harem isekai parody comedy anime are funny. And the least funny part, by far, is Mana, Protag-kun's horny talking raccoon wing woman, who in all my years of professional anime enjoyment has only been surpassed in her annoyingness by one other aggravating cartoon mascot thing. She single-handedly levels up this boring, sauceless slog of an isekai into actual torture, which only gets more severe with each passing episode, though thankfully there are only 12 of those, so it could be a lot worse. It could be number 7, Deadly Sins. Now, some out there might accuse me of only ranking Nanatsu no Taizai higher than those other 3 crappy anime just so I could make that terrible joke, but rest assured, if anything, I'm putting it lower on the list than it should be just so I could make that terrible joke. If that hypothetical gunman came back right now, I would pull the trigger for him. Throughout my entire decade-long career, I have never, never had less fun watching anime than I did binging this crap after you guys voted for me to roast it. Admittedly, part of that is on me. I am never watching 100 episodes of anything in a week ever again. And to be fair, the first 20 were mid, but a very mindlessly enjoyable kind of mid. Then the next 15 or so were a thoroughly passable kind of mid. The 17 after that, a mind-numbing sort of mid that you push through, mostly because you vaguely remember enjoying the show once at some point many years ago, and you hope to one day get back there again. Then the 24 that follow those slowly but surely choke that hope out of you down to the very last drip, squeezing just a little harder with each passing plot beat as the lore falls apart before your eyes, and each hero's backstory in turn reveals that every single one of them is a worse monster than the last, until you can scarcely remember a time in your entire life, let alone during this binge sesh, where you ever felt anything at all, and you legitimately can't decide whether it's funnier to tweet 7 deadly frames or 7 deadly sex offenders. But hey, you're over the hump by that point. There's only 24 more episodes left to go, and you've invested so much time in this story already. There's got to be some kind of payoff waiting for you at the end. I mean, how much worse could it possibly?
How dare you think that you can defy a mountain? Really? I blow away mountains for breakfast.
Oh, okay, so we're just doing the entire final boss fight twice, are we? Like, repeating every plot beat in the same order, only he possesses a palette-swapped version of Meliodas the second time, and you really thought we wouldn't notice what you were doing there? And then that still wasn't enough to pad the whole anime out, so you trot out this random bonus boss we've never heard of who just shows up to fight everyone until there's exactly 24 episodes worth of content? Holy shit, dude. You're making Reiji Miyajima look like he respects my time. After all that, it almost feels like a footnote to say that the worst mascot thing I've ever seen also happens to be in this anime. And what's really crazy is the walking power level and bad joke dispenser isn't even the worst character, cause goddamn Gother exists. But speaking of insufferable animals and actual literal sex criminals, the 6th worst anime I've ever suffered through is My Life as Inukai-san's Dog. The anime about a teenage virgin who inexplicably turns into a puppy, then gets adopted by his hot classmate who turns out to like dogs a little too much. Now, you might hear all that and assume that the core problem with Inukai-san's dog is that it's an anime which aired on television somehow about a teenage girl really wanting to fuck her dog. And that is part of it, a big part even. But the bigger problem is the complete and utter lack of literally anything else. Here we have a chilling sci-fi setting in which someone out there has figured out how to manipulate the human genome and turn people into animals against their will, and yet every line of every scene of every episode is just about dog fucking. There is not a single problem in the Inukai-verse that cannot be solved by fucking a dog. Bored and lonely? Fuck a dog. Miss your childhood friend who turned into a dog? Obviously you gotta go fuck that dog. Scared of dogs? Fuck a dog. You'll get right over it. Even when the mysterious masterminds behind the scenes finally tip their hand, revealing the full extent of their sinister conspiracy, just take a wild guess what the cure for being turned into a dog is. It's easy to dismiss Inukai as basically just a hentai that got on TV somehow, but frankly, sir, that is an insult to hentai. Hentai has plots, characters, lore, high-concept geopolitics, magic systems that are fueled by fucking many different things.
It's art.
This is mindless gooner slop of the lowest order. And to see the difference, you need look no further than last season's much better anime about an elf who really wants to fuck her cat. Or you could just watch The Last Hottest Trash if that's too cultured for you to handle. But all of this begs the question, we're only halfway down this list. What could possibly be worse than Inukai? You'll find out in just a sec after this word from our sponsor, Zenless Zone Zero, the stunning AAA free-to-play character action extravaganza from Hoyoverse that's celebrating its version 2.0 update on June 6th, which finally brings its addictive Twitch action gameplay to Xbox and adds a new map, the Waifei Peninsula, with a vastly different vibe from the central city you're used to. It feels just like a real-life Chinatown, complete with small mom-and-pop restaurants and traditional Taoist temples, which you can try your hand at managing. Season 2's story will see you exploring this new district under the mayor's directive as disciples of the aloof and fiercely independent Master Yi Zhuan, who's also joining the game's roster of playable agents as an S-rank rupture specialist. As part of the festivities, all players who log in and participate after June 6th will receive 1,600 polychrome, an anniversary-exclusive avatar and title, 10 Bupon, an A-rank W engine, a skin for their protagonist, 20 limited channel pulls, and best of all, a chance to claim an S-rank agent and S-rank W engine of your choice from the stable channel. On top of that, new players can claim 180 free pulls, and by pre-registering for version 2.0, you can unlock 320 more polychrome, enough level up materials to instantly boost any agent to level 40, and another exclusive title. Plus, there's one more exclusive title up for grabs for anyone who logs in through Xbox. And after 2.0 launches, all players will get a reset on their first purchase bonus benefits. There's never been a better time to get into Zenless Zone Zero, so click the link in the doobly-doo to start playing now on mobile or PC, or go search it up on the PS5 and Xbox stores. But getting back to the anime atrocities, the question still remains, what could possibly top the horrors we just witnessed? How about an anime made to literally ruin people's lives? Or heck, why not? 10 of them.
I'm Helen Keller. What?
Now, we had our fun in this basement mocking the happy science movies and the man who made them, Ryuho Okawa, who's dead now.
God is dead! God is dead!
Or, if you listen to his worthless grifter kids, he's in a deep spiritual trance from which he will one day awaken and usher in a new golden age for humanity just as soon as his supporters have raised enough millions of dollars. And hey, whatever he's got going on, it hasn't stopped him from executive producing a brand new anime due out this very month, which you better believe I'm making some content out of as soon as it's translated, just for the chance to dance on his grave one more time. And when I do, I hope that his family sees it and it really hurts their feelings. Because And this is something that can be lost in all the fun making of those roast videos. These are propaganda pieces designed to literally brainwash children. The other anime on this list may be bad, but these ones are actually evil. Of course, I'm not ranking anime on their moral standing, but technical and artistic merits, and in those respects, Happy Science's output is fine, certainly better produced than what American cultists used to brainwash their kids, and most seasonal isekai for that matter. It's the movie's stories, for the most part, that merit all the mockery, as they oscillate between being batshit insane and just insanely boring. And the boringest of the bunch by far is The Golden Laws. You know, the one with the kids in the time machine going to learn a bunch of lies about religious figures throughout history, which also happens to be the ugliest of those movies, since it was made in that awkward transitional period between traditional and digital animation by a studio so far past their prime they were taking work from cults just to keep the lights on, which I don't know if that's worse or better than NFTs, or maybe it's the exact same. Anyway, if I had to pick just one of these movies as the absolute worst to represent them all, I guess it'd be that one. And that one is just bad enough to come in at number 5, because for as many people as these films and the organization behind them have hurt over the years, they've never hurt me personally. Unlike an anime that we'll get to in just one sec, but first, I need to clarify something. My best anime ever list was not just my top 10 favorites, despite what some people think. It was an honest attempt to compile and rank the 10 best made anime that I've ever seen, which is still a matter of personal taste in the end, in terms of like what I value most in anime production. Clearly, I prize visual storytelling and animation quality over a lot of other things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that my picks were just the most Jeff-core anime possible. For example, on a favorites list, instead of Cowboy Bebop, I would have expressed my love for peak 90s cell animated sci-fi with Irresponsible Captain Tyler, which, if you haven't seen, one of the best retrospectives I've ever made, low-key, is this goofy space opera about basically a horny Mr. Bean captaining the Starship Enterprise in a war with sexy space elves. It's amazing, but it's also frustratingly incomplete, especially compared to Bebop. Tyler's anime never got to adapting even half of all the light novels, leaving massive questions hanging as to the ultimate fate of its world and characters, and even how the war shook out. So you can probably imagine my insane levels of excitement when I heard they were finally making a sequel/spin-off starring the kids of the characters, which lasted until I saw exactly the first frame of Irresponsible Galaxy Tyler. That was quite possibly the worst thing that has ever happened to me personally. And my dad is dead. Plenty of fandoms have been kicked in the teeth by anime studios over the years, but this was like being curb stomped repeatedly. Then they take the boot with your teeth embedded in it and put their full weight directly on your balls. Though, as bad as Galaxy Tyler is, at least the whole thing's over in less than half an hour, and the pain it induces is only emotional. All of the anime on this list are ones I'd call hard to watch in one way or another, but nowhere is that description more apt than with number 3, Handshakers. The only anime I know of with the power to literally, no hyperbole, make a person physically ill. Not due to any gross, weird stuff in the story. Well, not just that.
弟のこと愛してるって変かしらね。
Mostly it's the motion sickness that does it. See, over at Studio Gohands, they direct their anime a little differently. Where other studios might zig, they zag, then zag again, then do a little loop-de-loop, ollie into a wall ride, into a front-side manual, and cap it all off with a 360 no-scope. And that's just to show a guy walking down a hall. Wait till you see their action scenes. But, maybe take a Gravol before you do. I have seen these motherfuckers, honest to Haruhi, put the camera inside the floor just because they can. And the reason they can is thanks to the experimental digital hybrid over-animation style that they completely failed to implement in Handshakers. With vomit-shaded color grading, non-existent compositing, wildly inconsistent asset scaling, and its 3D and 2D frame rates dizzyingly out of sync with each other, Handshakers clipped into the floor and ragdolled into the sun, so its many younger sister series could one day drunkenly stumble out of a bar and almost make it down all the stairs. And impressively, the show's story is even harder to follow than that action. Unless you've seen Fate, in which case, it's literally just Fate. The whole plot's a Grail war with the serial numbers filed off, except instead of historical heroes, the wizards end up teaming up with submissive little bondage pets, amnesiac child brides, their sisters that they're boning, and other such things. Also, they charge their powers up in an even lewder way than the original Fate hentai games.
その力はどこから来るのか。手をつなぐことさ。
But as god-awful as the CGI is, and as baffling as the story can be, both sides of Handshakers could still be a lot worse. And you'll see exactly how much as we finally crown the absolute worst anime of all time. Which may sound premature, since if you can count, you know there are 2 numbers below 3. However, I just cannot decide which of my bottom 2 is truly worse than the other, and X-Arm and Gibiate had so much in common, I figure we may as well just talk about them both at the same time and try to figure that out together. On the one hand, we've got a bunch of film industry assholes who stumbled drunkenly into an anime studio one day, boldly declared that they were going to create a new kind of action never before seen in the medium with their elite live-action directing skills. Furthermore, went on to declare war on literally all of science fiction around the entire planet with their adaptation of a middling Ghost in the Shell knockoff, and then it looked like this. On the other hand, we're forced to watch in very, very slow real time as the infinite possibility of an original anime story is utterly squandered by a screenwriter with negative talent, while a team of elite Japanese artisans whom the entire project was supposedly made to celebrate have their swords and dolls and character designs utterly butchered beyond recognition by the studio that would one day give us In Another World for a second time, and somehow that was an improvement? Actually, it's not a mystery how that happened. The Nepo Baby screenwriter is also the lead producer, and he is equally skilled in that role. It's honestly impossible to decide which of these to hate more. It's apples to oranges, or like projectile vomit to projectile diarrhea. And the fact that they were both in production at the same time, for the same platform, under the same branding, does leave me feeling a little tempted to just give the entire top slot to Crunchyroll Originals as the norovirus of anime and call it a day. But as clever as that insult is, and as much as I'd like to make space to hate on Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammers anime again, it just wouldn't be fair to all the other legitimately good shows that came out of the program, or even the mediocre ones, frankly. So we gotta pick one, and that's ultimately a choice between an anime that does basically everything terribly versus one that's a bit more of a mixed bag, but does one specific thing worse than literally anything else in history. X-Arm is at least built around the skeleton of a competent story. The manga's best quality by far is its highly detailed Gunnar core art, but it also has, if not great characters, then at least appealing character archetypes, plus a comprehensible story with a beginning, middle, and end, which you might say is a low bar to clear, but tell that to Gibiate. I don't see X-Arm being anyone's favorite manga, but it's certainly the sort of thing I can see having fans who would be excited for an anime. And of course, the flip side of the manga's quality is the same problem that Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer and that anime that doesn't exist in 9th place have. That decent story has been done dirty by a terrible adaptation, which forever precludes the possibility of a better one existing. And obviously, X-Arm's story is nowhere near on the level of The Promised Neverland or a Satoshi Mizukami manga, but on the flip side, neither of those anime did their source material anywhere near this dirty. I mean, Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer didn't, because, you know, The Promised Neverland couldn't have, because it never had a second season. Point is, as manga adaptations go, X-Arm was done the dirtiest ever. It's got all the problems you'd expect to see in a live-action director's debut anime. Storyboards hopelessly constrained by the limits of reality and the fundamental misunderstanding of how to time animation chief among them, compounded by the show using the most difficult animation process to get right, further compounded by a team of film and game industry dudes who know even less about 3D CG anime than most 2D animators. And if that's not enough compounding for you, they made it at the height of COVID on a Crunchyroll Originals budget. X-Arm is, by a massive margin, the worst rigged, modeled, and animated 3D CG I have ever seen on television, and I grew up on Monster by mistake. But speaking of monsters and mistakes, the monsters in Gibiate do almost give X-Arm a run for its terrible CGI money in the little but still way too much time they spend on screen. And that is just the tip of a gargantuan shitberg. The show's 2D animation and art direction is equally atrocious, taking Yoshitaka Amano's distinctive character designs and simplifying them in a way that doesn't actually make them any easier to animate, while still robbing them of all their charm. Not a single one of the characters behind those designs is remotely likable, the story is borderline incomprehensible, and the backstory / lore is legitimately some of the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life. Gibiate is an anime with infinite shortcomings and zero redeeming qualities, which probably should make it the cut and dry winner, or loser of this competition, but it's facing off against a show that comes up so short in one specific area that I'm not sure any other quality could redeem it, and X-Arm doesn't have a lot of qualities to begin with, especially not when the story gets into anime original territory. At the end of the day, they're both fundamentally unwatchable 0 out of 10 shows, either of which could proudly wear this crown. But when I imagine that gun to my head, the thought of watching Gibiate again does make me want to die just a little bit more, so I guess that's the worst one. But I would love to hear your opinions on which is worse in the comments down below. Anyway, thank you for watching this video, and all the old ones, to make my suffering a little more worth it. If you want to see me not suffer for a change, remember to check out our new podcast, or go watch my top 10 anime of all time. And don't forget to download Zenless Zone Zero to get all those sweet version 2.0 rewards. I'm Geoff Thew, professional basement dweller, signing out from a bottomless bag of shit.